stream.
We'll get the,
Still had flooding.
there we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission meeting general session for this Tuesday, October 25th of 2022. So before we get into prayer and pledge of allegiance, followed by roll call, and then getting on with the business of our meeting, just want to remind everyone that if you'd like to address the City Commission during a public comment period, you may complete the comment form at the back of the room and submit it to our city clerk and Mish. On the form, please provide your name, home address, and the topic on which you'll be speaking. When it's your time to speak, I will acknowledge you and you will come to the podium, provide your name, and give your remarks up to 3 minutes. Note, I will not share your address publicly, nor will I ask you to announce your address before public comment. We do need it for our records, though. So I ask you to complete that form, which I'm not seeing on the wall. Oh, it's on the table. Okay. So we do have them back there on the table. Throughout our commission meeting, let's maintain decorum and remain respectful of one another. Visitors to our meeting should refrain from making remarks from the audience and instead are welcome to sign up to give public comment at the podium when called upon. So now we're going to have our prayer followed by pledge of allegiance. And if you care to join us, please stand. We're going to be joined by Stan Stirring of Allen Avenue Christian Reformed Church. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. If you would bow your head or just acknowledge a moment of silence with us. Gracious God and Father in heaven, we bow before you on this day to thank you, Lord, that as the grace of rain showers down upon this community, that the grace of wisdom and understanding would shower upon this commission meeting. We ask, Lord, for your blessing upon the mayor, the commissioners, the clerk, the manager, the attorneys. Lord, for all who are here, that your wisdom and understanding would be upon them. Lead them in the decisions that they face, and Lord, where there are differences, give them ears to hear, hearts to understand, and minds and wills, Lord, to work together for the good of your people. Because you tell us in your word to pray for the communities in which you have sent us, because if they do well, then people do well. And so we ask for your blessing upon Muskegon and upon this chambers and upon those who are in it. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. You're welcome. All right, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hood,
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Here.
Vice Mayor German,
Here.
Commissioner Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Emery,
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Thank you. We are all here and accounted for. Before we get into public comment on agenda items and then the meat of our business, we do have a presentation from Director Pete Wills. Oh, there he is. He's going to be presenting on our new website.
With your indulgence, Mayor, I'll sit at the clerk's desk here and kind of navigate this wonderful, exciting project that has been undertaken in the last year. And I'm pleased that we can be able to present this and show this to you.
Excellent.
Guess that wasn't loaded up. Let's see. Okay, so this is technically a live site. Our vendor had sent us a sort of a development site, and our IT staff earlier this afternoon really did a great job migrating a lot of information, or all the information from the old site to this one. So there are a few things that some of you have already pointed out that our IT staff is aware of relative to our number of PDFs that we're really trying to transition to more of a fillable form, so the folks can go online and go through that process. So as you peruse this, and certainly the public, there are things that we're aware of, and other things that maybe we're not familiar with just yet, but we're going to take the next couple of days to go page by page. But really, there are so many wonderful photos that were taken during this process that we really wanted to freshen up the site, that you can see, and make it emblematic of the watch colors. So we had certain specific, well, maybe back up. So we have 4 primary tabs: Explore Muskegon, which I'm not going to delve into a little bit, but I would say the primary piece for you to look at would be the Parks and Recreation site. That's got a lot of nice information on there, and we're still working on a parks reservation process that our DPW staff is engaged with and working on, but that will be a post-launch project. We really wanted to condense in this next business engagement link here to the obvious links that you can see here, from doing business with the city of Muskegon and economic development, if you're interested in renting a chalet. But this was a focused tab that we really wanted to put this kind of information on here. City services, obviously somewhat self-explanatory, but let me go down to development services for a minute. What you'll find specifically, like a page such as, say, planning. There were a lot of photos that I really wanted to integrate into the site. I got a little bit of pushback from the vendor to say just keep, say, 3 photos on this scrolling masthead here, but there are just so many to choose from that I think somebody that, whether you're a visitor, you're doing business, whether it's a resident or non-resident, you can just, there's just a lot of nice history that's represented visually that we really wanted to showcase. So, latest news, some of that's self-explanatory. We're trying to sort of condense the way that this is presented a little bit, but certainly this is most recent information that I know the mayor picked up on a little earlier on our development site. I guess going back to the home page, so these 6 buttons, commission agenda through report a problem, certainly wanted to keep somewhat consistent with our watch colors, and a little bit further down here, frequently used departments for the public that maybe they do have more frequent engagement with these particular folks, and you can click on view all there. On the home page, we also wanted to include the latest news. Certainly, as you can see, that's very large. Some of that is just based on how it came back from the vendor, but we're going to shrink that visually so that it reduces the amount of time you got to scroll through a page, obviously. But that's just obviously relevant information that you can see there. Upcoming events. We wanted to include certainly the mayor, city manager information here, where the public can meet you all and understand what boards and commissions are available. This Aurora, Colorado example that I used, I pulled this sort of serving Muskegon in 2022. Just really different statistics and things that we're doing well, we really want to promote. It's just kind of somewhat of a very quasi dashboard, but we wanted to integrate some of those kind of information there. The how can I help you and the document search, we wanted to keep that separate based on just the volume of information currently on the website relative to a searchable document versus a service that you're looking for help on. So I think we're going to be pleased with how both of those will function, and certainly if there are fits and starts, we'll get that corrected as well. So I think the public will have an easier time of navigating the site as well as plugging in, a question that they're looking for information on, at least from this homepage space here. Let's see here. We wanted to also in this pay and apply section, certainly wanted to make it easier for the public to have a place where they could go to, and this isn't all an exhaustive list of things that people are looking to have a particular city transaction on, but and it's not an exhaustive list, and so we can add to them, and if there are connection issues with being able to do this as we migrated the site over, we'll get that corrected, but we just wanted to have a place for the public to go from the website for that, as well as this tax information center is another one. We're going to be making some improvements there relative to our income tax department, and make it easier for the public to find that information. Report a problem. This probably could look a little bit better, but the way that it came back from the vendor here, I think it's got the relevant information for individuals to find whatever information they're looking for, and to engage the city if there is a question on something. The one thing I wanted to, let me before I get to that. So the number of forms, we have like 80 to 90 forms that are currently on the current city site for the public to use to fill out a particular piece of information for a program. We really want to migrate that over to a service that will be a little more seamless for the public, just to input their information like every other site does, and that then goes electronically to the relevant staff. So that'll be another post-launch project, so the public can have a little bit easier time of not having to fill out a form, print it, scan it, and then send it on to staff. I guess the final piece, and maybe it goes to a number of issues that we've sort of talked about over the last few years. I use this Aurora, Colorado example, and they've got an Engage Aurora page that really is powered by the Bang the Table platform. And what I like about this, and not necessarily that it's powered by Bang the Table, but this I see being the primary community engagement page that will add another page to the current site, sort of a Connect Muskegon page, where that can include project-based information, our dashboard, master planning documents, anything that we really are looking for some feedback from the public on can be housed here. And that's where I think this community engagement manager will spend a lot of time in inputting a lot of information onto this particular link. And so I'm trying to emulate the type of content that exists. They've got a really nice dedicated page off of this particular link here that I think we can emulate. And so I don't know why that happened, but that, in a quick nutshell, is what we have to present to you. And we have a number of, again, post-launch projects relative to, again, community engagement and that fillable forms, and a number of other pieces of information that we want to show the public. So I want to thank Mike Vandermolen and Jason Bose and Jackie Ernie and Jamie Pesch. This is a long process. Not a lot of people really want to work on it, but we had to herd cats and get it done. So I think this is makes us look like we're in the 21st century, and we're pleased with the product. So.
Excellent. Great work to you and our team on updating this and getting us a new, fresher, simplified, more user-friendly website that's going to better serve our residents and property and business owners and visitors.
And if you see anything that needs to be changed, please send that to me, and we'll get that onto IT. So.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments right now?
Looks amazing, Pete.
Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a compliment. Yeah, excellent job, you and your team and everyone that worked on it. I like the color scheme, how well you can navigate through it. It looks welcoming. Also, the page just basically jumps out at you, you know, so that's a good thing. Yep. So, real good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, I've sent you off some points of observations and some feedback, and then kind of some asks or wishes. Like, it'd be great if we can incorporate this, particularly with regard to some of our documents and how we make them available and queryable and whatnot. So, look forward to having those further conversations with you. Something that we can just, as we're moving forward, continuously improving on the site and how it serves our community. But I really like your desire to incorporate those elements from the Aurora website. They did some very nice things with their website in terms of making information available. And with their development dashboard and their community engagement pieces and tracking projects. Those are all great elements that I look forward to our incorporation in our website. So thank you again, Director Wills. All right, moving on to public comment on any agenda item. So we have 2 periods of public comment. One right now is for agenda items, and another public comment period at the end of the meeting on any items. Madam Clerk, do we have any forms for comments?
I do not.
No? Last call for public comment on agenda items. Anyone in the audience? No? All right. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration, deliberation, and vote? Commissioner Ramsey.
Item C.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Item H.
Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, item D, And item L and item M.
Are there, before we move forward on that, Vice Mayor German, just with regard to items L and item M, might you be able to give remarks on that as part of discussion of adoption of the consent agenda itself versus a separate vote on those two? Or do you really want to have a separate vote on these? I'm just wondering because we've already, the commission as a body has already approved both of those items unanimously with just one absence. And I was just wondering if you wanted to give input on it and then vote for it, or if you wanted it pulled from the agenda specifically so that you could vote maybe differently than the commission. I just wanted to get better understanding for efficiency of our meeting.
Yeah, and I'd like the public to get, understanding of it as well, and talk about the intent of the rezoning of that property on 398 Catawba, and then also the reducing housing unit size also. So just to kind of have some understanding and what the city is doing for the public. If they have any questions later, those will be already addressed.
Okay. We have done that, but we can certainly have those discussions again.
Right. And I'm just saying in the public forum.
Yeah,
on
no,
record and
we
stuff
have
like that.
multiple
Yeah,
meetings
yeah.
on this
Yeah.
conversation. So I just was trying to, because we're going to have a long meeting. So I
Yeah,
was just trying to make this as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
CDHLM. All right. Well, I did also I did also want us to discuss the fireworks display contract, but I have reservations about pulling that and having that discussion separately. But I do think that it merits some discussion.
Go ahead.
So we're just going to pull apart the essentially the whole consent agenda. All right. Yay. So, commissioners, we're looking at, and I just want to make sure we're all clear on the items. I understand that there's a request for C to be removed, item D to be removed, item H to be removed, item L to be removed, and item M to be removed. And I've also requested that we remove item B. All right, so that's B, C, D, H, L, and M. All right, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented minus items B, C, D, H, L, and M.
So moved.
Support. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Ramsey. If there's no discussion on the remaining items on the consent agenda, we're going to move forward with roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, let's start in alphabetical order with item B. I know that I had requested it removed, but could I welcome a motion to approve the fireworks contract with Pyrotechnico?
I thought you were motion to approve the fireworks contract with Pyrotechnico.
Support.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair to approve the fireworks contract with Pyrotechnico. So, thank you, Commissioner St. Clair and Commissioner Ramsey. So the conversation that I had with staff about this was basically just around the date, because what's being proposed here is July 4th. It's some conversation about potentially moving it to July 1st. Typically, we do it on a Saturday. Well, I shouldn't say typically. We've only done fireworks ourselves in the last 2 years. Previously, the community or other organizations did fireworks previously. The city has done them in the past 2 years. We've selected the Saturday for the last 2 years to do so. There was some concern from staff about it getting pushed too far out or away from July 4th if we did that on July 1st, a Saturday. But I wanted us to have a conversation about that, or potentially even maybe, I don't know, putting up a poll or something to gauge our community in terms of where they might feel on that. If there are pros and cons to both. I mean, obviously July 4th is the day that we're celebrating. It is a weekday this year. It's a Tuesday, or is it Wednesday?
Yes, it is.
Tuesday this year. And we've heard that Grand Haven is doing theirs July 4th. So my thought, if we did do it July 1st, at least we're not competing with a nearby community. Folks can go to Grand Haven to enjoy those fireworks on the 4th. Folks can come to our community on the 1st and enjoy fireworks here. We may have events downtown that weekend as well that we could piggyback off of. I was thinking that there might be some efficiencies in terms of our DPW usage because we are going to have picnic tables and whatnot down there in that area and staged up and an event going on versus having to do that work, a few days later downtown on the 4th. So I just wanted us to have some conversation around this. If there's I'm leaning towards July 1st, but I don't feel super strongly about this either way. But I did want us to have some conversation as to whether to stick with the Saturday and do July 1st or move to a weekday, July 4th. My other thought was just in terms of people that are working first shift, might be easier for them to go enjoy the fireworks on a Saturday night versus a Tuesday night. But Commissioner Ramsey.
Two things. I would like to rely heavily on the clerk's office because they've done this event for the 2 past years. So I would love to hear their recommendations. And their thoughts. And then I would also like to know, I think you brought up a great point about being observant of Grand Haven's fireworks. And I think that we should offer and extend the same courtesy to our neighbors in the Heights, because I know that they had a big fireworks display last year, and so let's not cut them off either. Or if there's a chance for partnership. Don't know. At this point, just saying all the things. Mm-hmm. But again, I would like to hear from the clerk's office.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We did talk as a staff, and we talked with the city manager, and we talked with the Department of Public Works, and honestly, none of us had a strong passion for July 1st or July 4th. The only reason we leaned towards July 4th, it just felt like we were getting a little bit further away, but there's a lot of pros to having it on July 1st as well. So either way, honestly, is fine with us.
Yeah. And we can certainly invite all of Greater Muskegon to our fireworks display. I believe the Heights does one for Juneteenth, not for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I certainly want us to support their celebrations, our community celebrations on Juneteenth. Commissioner Gorman, did you have?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to add from the Parties in the Park perspective. As we looked at our schedule for the calendar, we decided to take the 30th as the off week that we would normally observe for the 4th of July holiday, and then returning that next Friday on the 7th. So we're banking on people celebrating the 4th the weekend before, but we don't know. So
For Parties in the Park, you're referencing. Okay. Vice Mayor German, did I see you?
No, I was just jotting down the
okay.
date for
Thought you were
which
about
is
to-
on a Saturday. it
Okay.
looks like.
Yeah, the first is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Before I go back to you, Commissioner Ramsey, Commissioner Hood, did I see you about to?
I like the 4th, to do it on the 4th. I know when we do it on other days, people are asking, Muskegon are not going to have fireworks? Well, we just had them. But we're not going to have 4th of July fireworks? So I kind of lean towards the 4th.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Any other commissioners before I go back to Commissioner Ramsey? No. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, so as a follow-up to my first question and statement, I would encourage that we reach out to the offices of the Heights with Jennifer Ross as their new city clerk. There might be more interest. So I'm fine with approving the contract as it sits now, but as far as choosing a date, I would really like to hear from the Heights first to see if they have anything planned.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. So, I'm not sure we have consensus. I've heard from Commissioner Hood preference for July 4th. I mean, is the lack of silence on this or not the lack of silence, the lack of input on this reflective of acceptance of July 4th is perfectly fine versus going with July 1st? Or is it we're just kind of indifferent?
Ladder.
Yes, Commissioner Emery.
I agree with, Commissioner. Yes. Okay, Hood. Just totally. And
Okay, I do it all
it
the
just
time.
We all.
thank you. It just doesn't seem right to me not to have it on the 4th of July. You know, I understand your viewpoint of it, but then the 4th comes and darn, where are we celebrating? That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right, excellent. Thank you. Any other input or questions on this item? All right. Excellent. Sounds like we'll stick with July 4th. The other. Are we going to be, so my other question or concern, potentially, just with regard to fireworks in general, is that are we going to be looking for sponsorships or partnerships? As Commissioner, I think Commissioner Ramsey is kind of implying, looking at how can we partner with others. Are we going to be looking to partnerships or sponsorships? I know years prior to us taking this on, another event had funded this. We were coming out of the pandemic, and I was like, fine, okay to spend that money. Something that we needed. I do have a little bit of reservation of potentially spending $40,000 to $60,000 on an event that lasts 20 to 30 minutes when we can use that money for a lot other purposes that have a enduring benefit to our community. So that is a conversation I think we're going to need to be having beyond this one. We'd already budgeted half of this cost, I believe, so the remaining half would be in a future budget, next fiscal year's budget, to cover this coming July 4th. But I do think that it merits conversation and consideration by us whether this is something that we want to continue funding in full, in part, or not at all, or if there are alternatives to fireworks that we can be pursuing that would allow us to celebrate the 4th of July in a less expensive manner. And also maybe not with fireworks. We've heard some input from the community in terms of fireworks impacts on pets and veterans, those with PTSD, and not to mention the environmental impact as well. So I just think that merits some conversation as to whether or not to move forward with fireworks beyond this next event. So, all right, unless there's any other questions or comments, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
No.
Motion passes.
All right. Next item, C, interim city manager stipend. And I'm sorry, I forget who asked.
That was me.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes, so I would like to make a motion to approve the weekly stipend as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Gorman, to approve the weekly stipend as presented for our interim city manager. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to take a moment just to say thank you. I know that the position you had to fill and the train that was going 100 miles an hour down the track that you literally jumped on and captained like a champion was not easy for you to do. And I just want to say thank you. And our residents thank you, and I know that the bench thanks you. Your colleagues thank you. We're all very proud of you and all the great things that you've done. I will selfishly say I'm very excited to have you going back to being our deputy city manager so that we can have great conversations and I'll have more time that I can take up for no reason. But this is not easy work, and you proved yourself during this task. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Yeah. Echo. Ditto.
Thank you. That was very kind of you. Thank you.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes. Yeah, and I also like to echo Commissioner Ramsey's sentiments. Excellent job taking on a role that you had never done before, the challenges, and I appreciate the times that I've reached out to you and you responded quickly, willing to meet with community leaders and residents. And I think the experience that you've gotten in this position while you were doing this is going to benefit you in your future endeavors. And so I'd like to say publicly thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Commissioners, any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor German, item D, sale 653 Yuba.
Okay, where we at there? Oh, yes. I move to authorize the code coordinator to work with the developer and complete the sale of the city-owned buildable lot as described and have the mayor and clerk sign the purchase agreement and deed.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to authorize the code coordinator to work with the developer and complete the sale of the city-owned buildable lot at 653 Yuba as described, and to have the mayor and clerk sign the purchase agreement and deed. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, is there anyone that can speak on this? And the reason I brought this off the agenda, because this is actually in my ward, and community members, citizens want to know what's going to go on with that property and the intent of the developer, what's going to go there if he chooses to develop that.
Sure. So we were before this board a couple months ago for the rezoning. Mr. Ramos is here as well, I believe, tonight. If he wants to come up and explain his project a little better, but he intends to install mini storage units at the property. So now that it's rezoned, if he does take ownership of the property, his next step would be to have a special use permit hearing at the Planning Commission for that.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to have Mr. Ramos come up if he doesn't mind. Okay, thank you, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Ramos. If you give your name and then the address of your business.
David Eusebio Ramos. David Ramos. Ramos. So I've been in contact with several of the neighbors, and I have put aside the storage mini units for now in an attempt to see what it is that they actually want there. And so after speaking with one of the direct neighbors, he would like to see what the proposal that I would make for another venture would be there. And I'd like to build a fire barn style facility. And so he wants to take a look at those pictures, and so far he is he's somewhat in agreement and opposed to the mini storage. So I would like to show him what that would look like and continue to work with him and or any other neighbor that would like to meet with us. So that's it. I only had one other gentleman who really, or that was the only gentleman that, unless there are others, I have reached out to several other people from that block and that neighborhood association, and had a one-on-one, and I just want to listen to them. And if there's something that I can do, then I'll do it. If not, then I will have to relinquish the property back to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Vice Mayor German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Ramos, you indicated that you want to develop that property by putting storage space units there. How many particularly are you talking about putting there?
Storage units?
Yes.
No, as of this point, I'd like to change that.
Oh,
because he's not in favor of it.
okay, so that's crossed out. So then the fire barn is the next.
Something that would look similar to a fire barn.
Okay. And you don't have any drawings or renderings or anything like
I
that?
don't, well, I do. I've made some contacts with some builders, and they are going to be drawing up some plans for me. I'd like to present it to the neighborhood association along with the direct neighbor. And if they are in favor of it, then I would come here. Now, I know as a norm, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. If the commission would say yes, then build it. But I am concerned about what the neighbors say. And my, as I look at that neighborhood, and, I purchased a building there quite some time ago, and we've, kept the lawn. Forgive me if I offend you, but that's not my intent, but I am going to say what I'm going to say. That's who I am, what I am. I've kept my lawn mowed, despite the city not mowing their lawn, and multiple phone calls from me. It's bad. There's been a lot of landscaping that's been done down there, and new trees been planted, and it's absolutely horrible. I've asked for people to ride with me so that I could point it out and show them. When you have this type of blight, the littering and the garbage, it continues. Now, since we've been down there more and more and doing more storage down there, It has stopped. I've put up some more lights. I've put up security cameras. We've painted our building. We've hired a lawn service now that maintains that regularly, and it's sad to see that the city has failed. And I'm still cleaning up almost every other morning. I go there with my own truck, clean up the mess, and I think that with activity there and the type of activity that I propose and the lighting and the cameras that I have, very similar to all of our other facilities, that we can help alleviate that for another great community in this city. But again, I don't mean to step on toes here. I know that everybody's busy. I know the departments are very busy, and I hate to see that being put on the back burner.
Indeed. No, there's no questions from the audience. I'm sorry. If you want to give any remarks on this item, you may. Oh.
Just very similar to a fire station. That's all.
In design.
I like the appearance of them. They have the glass windows, the glass doors. I think they're very attractive, and that might be somewhat suited for that department. It's not going to generate any funding for us directly for the company, but it'll at least clean that neighborhood up and clean that mess up. Mm-hmm. All those trees that are dying, nobody's taking care of them. Nobody's cleaned anything up there for years, and I think it's a great area for our city. That's all. I don't have any other intent for it. So if the community, the direct community, meaning that block, can come to an agreement with me, then we'll proceed. Otherwise, I will relinquish the city back, or the property back to the city, and hope that they will maintain it.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. You've done a great job with the property that you already own there, with your improvements. You've been a good caretaker of their property and helping the city with its caretaking of our adjoining property. I know you and I have had conversations about some issues in the past, change of leadership in different departments, and hopefully things are getting better insofar as that property near you is concerned. If not, we need to have that conversation again. I wholeheartedly agree with engaging the neighborhood association, and I appreciate you had shown up to a meeting. After the last time this was before us, I encouraged you to meet with the neighborhood association, and you went to their meeting. It was a rather long meeting. You weren't able to actually discuss this particular item with them. I'm happy to hear that you further engaged with the neighbors directly on that street. And I appreciate that you're willing to take a step back and say, I want to further engage, further hear from, further work with the neighbors over that property. I had supported the rezoning of it because we had one parcel with two different types of zoning. It was odd. It needed to be brought into alignment, whether that was unified residential or unified B4, and that's what we've done. It's unified B4. Knowing that the end use is still to be determined, and you have further engagement with the nearby property owners and the Jackson Hill neighborhood, which is a phenomenal neighborhood filled with excellent people, I would prefer to personally not vote on this and issue the sale or the purchase order or agreement with you until such time as we've had that further engagement with the neighbors and understanding of what kind of development actually is going to come of that property. But that's my perspective. I'm just one of seven, so just sharing my thoughts on this item right now. Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments on this item right now? Vice Mayor German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Ramos, and property that you have and what you've done down there, I definitely want to thank you because I know the history. Now that road going down right in front of your property, for years I requested and pleaded that hump get fixed, and which gives a smooth transition back into the neighborhood. The property that you're talking about, I believe that's right across the street, correct?
No.
It's not
adjacent to the property.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
one that's adjacent. I could, with the storage spaces, I really couldn't see how that can just kind of conform into the neighborhood, and there was definitely some concerns from the citizens. I would feel more comfortable actually seeing some renderings or some drawings, you engaging more with the Jackson Hill Neighborhood Association. I know you've been there because I've been to the meetings and I've seen you there, and I appreciate that. So I see your willingness to work, with the community. And I think until we, get to a mutual agreement where the community feels like they're included and had some input, more input, to work with you and you work with them, I think that would be the best outcome. And to have your project, if approved, be a successful one as well. So
either way that this goes tonight, the way I view it is you're going to make money off somebody who's going to pay taxes on it, no matter which way it goes, right? I own the property, it's in the city, I pay the city taxes. So if you were to grant this tonight, the only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to clean it up initially. I would also ask for an additional time frame if needed, because as I understand it now, you have 18 months to develop once it's started. But if I don't come to an agreement with the residents within that time period, or I get close to that time period, and the way things go nowadays with construction and materials and things like that, that I would be granted additional time, reasonable time. And boy, I tell you what, I've often said if I could define the word reasonable, I'd be a billionaire. But I can't, so that would have to be determined by us. And so the only benefit that I can see from you doing this now is I would start cleaning it and you would start getting taxes off of it. If you don't grant it tonight, it's still going to be a mess and you won't make any money off of it. So again, either way you go, I respect it. I understand that. But, and that's all I have in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for Mr. Ramos while he's at the podium? No? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ramos.
I'd just like to mention I wasn't aware that wasn't the plan anymore. So staff's recommendation was based off of development. Sounds like there's up in the air now and may not be able to meet the 18 months. Seems a little odd to sell a property with no concrete plans. I think it would be very challenging to get everybody on board on the same project and think of something feasible to do. So be putting the cart before the horse.
No. Thank you, Mr. Franzik. I essentially share that sentiment of, well, I certainly welcome additional revenues and that property being cleaned up or cared for, perhaps better than it has been. I don't feel compelled to sell that property right now at this point, and would rather have clarity, rather have further engagement with the neighborhood and neighbors, and have clarity as to what's to come of that property. Because right now, the zoning before, you have all the use by rights that are allowed by B4, and then you have all the use by rights that are allowed by B2. And that was some of the concerns we heard from Jackson Hill neighborhood, is that previously when it was indicated, well, this is going to be storage, it's like, well, some of them were like, okay with that, with proper cameras or security or lighting or whatnot. But others were like, but you're opening it up potentially to all these other use by rights. And we're concerned if maybe they change tact and go with one of those uses that is more objectionable to the neighborhood. And so I'd rather have clarity as to how the property will actually end up being used, and further engagement with the neighborhood. Commissioner St. Clair.
So, Mr. Franzik, can you provide some clarification? Is it your suggestion that we not proceed without a clear plan tonight?
Yeah, I would encourage not to proceed. In the past, when we've sold commercial properties, there's always been a concrete plan in place, and
This is an anomaly.
Yes, and we do adjust the period to commence from time to time. Sometimes it's 18 months, sometimes it's 24 months or 36, depending on the scale of the project. So it's hard to identify that at this point.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Any other questions or remarks, commissioners? All right, well, we do have a motion on the floor to authorize the completion of this sale for me and the clerk to sign it. So the question is, You just rescind the motion,
Or motion to
postpone
table.
it, table it. Does tabling? Do we need to specify a date, or can it be tabled indefinitely?
You could do either way.
Okay.
Just specify which.
Okay.
And if
Because-
it's indefinitely subject to staff bringing it back at an appropriate time, something like that.
Okay. So that was Vice Mayor German, I think, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. Vice Mayor German, would you have a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yes, Mayor. Amendment would be to suspend it indefinitely and have staff bring it back with a plan and direction on what the developer wants to do with the property.
Support. That's sufficient. All right. We have a motion, a friendly amendment to his motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Mr. Porter, Commissioner St. Clair. Any further discussion or deliberation? No? All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you. Next item H, skate park RFQ. I'm excited. That was Commissioner St. Clair.
I motion to award the contract for Phase 1 and 2 services on the skate park development to Grindline Skate Parks Incorporated and to authorize work to commence.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Vice Mayor German, to award the contract for Phase 1 and 2 services on the skate park development to Grindline Skate Parks Incorporated and authorize work to commence. Director Evans, welcome.
Good evening.
Tell us what you got.
I guess what we've got is the next big step in what's been a very long process that even predates me being here 4.5 years ago, I want to say.
We got this ball rolling with Mohammed.
It's been a long haul, and this will be exciting. I think this will be the first time we've truly committed funds towards the project in a real way. So what we have is we have a site. We have loose commitments from the site owners, which is the county and the Boys and Girls Club, to kind of let us take this next step and see what kind of plan we can come up with for a skate park on Rotary Park, mostly on Rotary Park, maybe a little bit on the Boys and Girls Club. We issued RFPs about 6 weeks ago. We had 5 proposals. We had a scoring team that consisted of 1 city staff member, 1 county staff member, and 1 member of the public. And they all unanimously recommended Grindline Skate Parks for this. We did receive 5 great proposals. Grindline's really stood out. They've done a lot of work, and their examples really showed how they can customize a skate park to fit a community. A lot of the other ones took maybe more common elements and built them off site and brought them in, and Grindline's proposal really, all of their examples fit a community, and we thought that was really important for this and would give us a really unique, versatile, long-lasting skate park that could be a focal point for the community. So today we're looking for support to commit. I don't have a number in front of me. I think it was around $9,400 to pay for their Phase 1 and 2 services, which will get us some conceptual drawings and really kind of put a picture to what we think could be at this site, as well as help us host, I believe, 2 more community engagement type meetings to kind of present that design to the public and then refine it and then come back again with a final design and cost estimate and kick us over into a fundraising scenario where we can start to really, try to build some momentum behind this park and make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Evans. Commissioner St. Clair, any follow-up questions or remarks?
No questions, just that I'm really excited to see how this is coming together. I think that there's a lot of community excitement behind it, and it's nice to see us actually moving forward in a appreciable way.
Indeed. Commissioners, any other remarks or questions? All right. Well, thank you, Director
Yes,
Evans,
you're
for
welcome.
picking up that torch with the baton from Mr. Alchatel, who we first initiated this project after discovering some liability issues with the skate park at Cypress Park and having to essentially gut that and remove most of the elements there. and then engaging with our community as to how do we move forward. And it's been a multi-year process. It's gone, there have been hiccups and it's gone slower than maybe we would have liked. But I'm happy that we are, as Commissioner St. Clair said, making appreciable progress. And I'd like to recognize Mr. Don Steigman, who's in the audience and has been part of the Citizens Committee and our skate park committee essentially from the beginning. And also was one of the members of your RFQ review committee as well. So I think that you guys have selected or made an excellent recommendation to the commission on how we proceed and working with Grindline to take us to the next step, move this project into hopefully completion in the not too distant future. And so thank you also to the county and to the Boys and Girls Club for their collaboration with us on moving this project forward. I love that where it's located and right off of our bike trail as well, our recreational trail. So Commissioner Ramsey, did you have something that you wanted to add or ask?
I thought I wanted to ask a question, but as soon as you named all the people that were willing to collaborate, so my name is Michael Ramsey and I'm old. And I didn't know if a skate park, because this has been in the works for quite some time, right? And I didn't know if it was still a viable thing or if that's a question I could ask. Like, is it still cool? Because I'm clearly not, right? And so I just wanted to make sure that, like, are we missing? Because we're not young. we're not on skateboards young, is what I mean. I'm not calling anybody at this table old. I just wanted, but then you said all these people, and if they see value in it, then I see value in it, and it's great job.
We had, and I'm gonna ask Manager Mike Sell to speak as well, because she's been part of the process nearly since the beginning as well, and working with Leo and our citizens on this and moving this forward. But I will say that we did a survey back in 2016, 2017 to help inform where to locate this, what types of amenities to be included, whether to be skater oriented only or to be incorporation plaza-like experiences so general public can enjoy it, whether it should be bikers as well, cyclists, and all of that. And we got 800 responses to that survey.
Love it.
And we also we had done a meeting last November, and that was very well attended in the community room at the fire department. So there's considerable interest in our community.
So as soon as last November, as recent as last November is what we're talking about, where it was still valid for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a public meeting on November 30th, and it was the best attended public meeting I have ever hosted. And we had so much input. Everybody was really engaged and really respectful and just provided all kinds of great input for us. So there's definitely interest in the community.
That was my question. I'm just not cool, so I didn't know.
And thank you, Ms. Mikesell, for your leadership on this project and facilitating that event last November and shepherding this project forward.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Excellent. So, Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? No? All right. Excellent. Thank you, Director Evans. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next item. We have L, rezoning of 398 Catawba Avenue. This is a second reading. Vice Mayor German.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Move to rezone the property at 398 Catawba Avenue from R3 Single Family High Density Residential to B4 General Business.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner Gorman, to rezone the property at 398 Catawba Avenue from R3 Single Family High Density Residential to B4 General Business. Welcome, Manager Franzik. If you could just give us a report out on the processes we've undertaken with this particular rezoning and where we're at today.
Yep. So the business Gordon Painting has been there over 10 years, I believe. It's considered a non-conforming property because it's zoned single-family residential, but it's been commercial since its existence. I think it would be good to bring that into conformity, just because it's an established business right next to an industrial park. General business is less intense than the industrial park is, and they would like to put an addition on so they can add a power washing business. They cannot do that because of the current zoning, so they need a rezoning in order to expand their business operations.
Has there been any pushback from the public, anything like that, Director Francis?
No, we sent a notice out to everybody within 300 feet of the property, did not get any feedback, and we held a public hearing at the Planning Commission with no comments.
Thank you.
And was it, if I recall correctly, it was approved or recommended unanimously by the
Yes.
Planning Commission for the City Commission to adopt that. And then we had our first reading of this 2 weeks ago by the City Commission, and we unanimously, of the six present, approved it then. Any other questions or remarks, Vice Mayor German?
No.
And I should say, nobody came to that last City Commission meeting either to speak on this item, one way or the other. So, all right. Unless there's anything else?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And I should just explain for our audience and anyone perhaps watching at home why, because they just heard like we voted on this last week or 2 weeks ago and it was approved, 6-0. Then why is this coming back to the commission for a second reading and a second vote? But that's what's required when we have a rezonings and ordinance amendments. That if it's not approved unanimously by all 7 members of the commission, then it requires a second reading. So if you have, say, 4, 5, or 6 that vote on it in affirmative in the first reading, it requires it to come back to a second reading for a subsequent majority approval. So just wanted to give that clarification for people's understanding. All right, next item, we have item M, which is also a second reading of an ordinance amendment. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, again, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the request in amendment section 2319 of the zoning ordinance to reduce the minimum size required for single-family houses, row houses, duplexes, and small multiplexes, up to 6 units from 850 square feet of floor area to 550 square feet total. And to also change the minimum size requirements from large multiplex 6 unit and above, mixed use building and accessories dwelling units from 650 square feet of floor area to 375 square feet.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. Mr. Franzik, if you could just report out on this item for us, or we've heard it before. You weren't able to join us at the last meeting, so maybe you have something specific you want to ask, or if you just want a general report from Mr. Franzik, I'll let you take the lead on your questioning, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Francis. This is a lot of questions that I've had from constituents and people in the communities about what this is going to look like, the scale of it. Basically, it states it in here. But can you just kind of elaborate and just kind of in detail give the scope of what and the downsizing of the square footage would do and how it would fit into the zoning part of this project?
Yeah, so the amendment is just going to give more options to people that want to build homes. Right now, the minimum size you can build a one-room house is 850 square feet. Proposing to take that down to 550 square feet. But that's not to say every house from now on is going to be built at 550 square feet. I don't anticipate many at all. We do have one developer that's interested in building some. But just because we're zoning for that doesn't mean that that's going to be the new norm. It's just another tool in our toolbox to create affordability for homeowners and for renters as well. So it's just taking down that square footage a little bit more for the minimum. We already do have houses that small in the city. Not too many, but they are out there. So at one time they were legal. And it's also to reduce the size of multifamily homes too. When you think about large apartment complexes, we do not allow studio apartments now. You have to have a 1-bedroom. We're proposing to allow studios because those are very popular these days and something we want to be able to provide, and we have some developers that are interested in that as well. So we're proposing 75 square feet for those.
Okay. And I believe I was at one of those work sessions, when we had this discussion, instead of going out on the width, we're looking at more or less building up. Is that part of this plan with these houses, or is that how it would appear to get that square footage?
Build it however you would like to within the realms of the zoning ordinance. So it's not saying you have to build up or you have to build sideways. You have that option right now for duplexes or triplexes, or apartment buildings, whether you're going to build them side by side or up. So that doesn't really change anything.
Okay, and does this target a certain area, or are we talking about just citywide?
Citywide, wherever it's allowed.
Okay.
If you're building a duplex, each side has to be 550 square feet, but most importantly, it has to be in the correct zoning. So if you are not allowed to build a duplex in a certain area, then this doesn't apply. But it will affect everything for single family, pretty much. Single family is allowed almost everywhere, so.
Okay, that was my next
So
question.
apply for all of our residential zoning, only some of which allow for the duplexes or higher multi-units. And then just to clarify with regard to building up or out, this language does specify a footprint, a total area footprint of 550 square feet. So it's not like you're going to have 225 square feet footprint and then add a second floor, and then you're going to count that as 550 feet. That was one of the things that was added when we brought it. So as you may recall, this had first came to a work session at one point just to discuss this conceptually, whether we wanted to reduce the minimum square footage. The commission had consensus that that was what we wanted to proceed with. Then it went to the planning commission. The planning commission reviewed it. Then it came back to the city commission. Formally, we reviewed it then. We decided to send it back to the planning commission to tighten up some of the language, including that very element we were just talking about with regard to the footprint and then some other aspects of it. So with the tightened up and updated language, then the planning commission reviewed it, and that time it was approved for recommendation to us by 6-1 vote. So it then came back to us 2 weeks ago. We approved it unanimously, and now we're here with the second reading. So just to give some sequencing. Yes, did I miss something?
Well,
Mr.
just to
Franzik?
clarify, we are measuring from the outside walls, but you could use the second floor as additional square footage. So if you're building a duplex and you wanted 550 on the first floor and another 550 on the second floor, that's fine.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you wanted a single family home, you could have half of that on the first floor and half of it on the second floor, but you're probably not going to meet the rest of the ordinance.
Not this language. This specifically
You're not going
says-
to meet. You're not going to meet that ordinance about the minimum length of the house. So I believe there's language in there about having to be 24 foot wide. So
Okay.
you're not going to meet that. But
Okay.
we are measuring from the outside wall, but we're measuring all floors though.
But we're not going to have.
You wouldn't be able to build like a. You're not
We
going to
were trying to get away from having the too tiny of a footprint. That's why we were revising that.
Right. So there's already language in the ordinance that says if you're have a 33 foot wide lot, it has to be a minimum of 20 foot wide. So you're not going to see like a 16 foot wide house with 2 stories to make up that square footage.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause that was one of the concerns that had
Right.
been conveyed at the planning, and then as well as on the city commission. So okay. Did you have something, Commissioner Sink, there? Okay. No. All right. Thank you for that further clarification, Mr. Francis. Vice Mayor German, did you have any follow-up questions or
Nothing
comments?
else. Thank you, Mr. Francis.
All right. Any other remarks or questions? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. Franzik.
Thanks.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our consent agenda. Now on to public hearings. We have infill housing project, brownfield plan, public hearing, 4th Amendment.
Yes,
Dr. Wills.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the 4th Amendment. We're here primarily for your consideration this evening on behalf of the 880 First Development that's seeking state full capture on their particular development, and so they requested to pursue their own plan amendment, and so that necessitated pulling that project out of the third amendment. And as my wonderful colleague Mike Franzik, who authored this particular plan amendment, while we were in that document, we made a few other adjustments relative to the two mixed use projects, 395 Houston and 301 West Muskegon, which is the Catholic Charities. We would expect that developer to pursue both state capture as well as perhaps their own plan amendment. And then also the 881st development. We also removed the Allen Edwin homes from the former farmers market site, as well as a modified parcel at the former Frebel School. So that would leave in this particular Fourth Amendment 495 parcels. As was asked and addressed in the October 11th commission meeting relative to the former Frebel School, I'll really let kind of Mike address that. But there are certainly no development plans for that particular site. Only if into the future, if we expect that there are public infrastructure costs or demo and abatement costs, we increase those particular thresholds if we needed that. So there are no certainly short-term nor imminent plans for that particular site. And also we included potential construction of around 28 new infill homes on that site if into the future that ever materialized. So primarily, again, 8881st is why we're here this evening. Maybe Mike can provide a little bit more detail if he chooses to do, but that's in a nutshell. The integrity of the scattered site brownfield remains the same relative to a 30-year duration of the plan, as well as the 5-year capture of tax increments into the brownfield revolving loan fund. So the integrity of that plan remains the same. That in essence is the reason here. And I also neglected to put the actual motion on the cover sheet, so I can give an updated cover sheet to Ann and she can articulate that. So yeah, apologize about that. So maybe on the 5th one I'll actually include it. So, Mike, you want to add it?
Sure. So some of the numbers were tweaked a little bit because of taking these properties out that are probably going to go for their own brownfields. We did take the Allen Edwin plan out, and that took out $777,000 of infrastructure. That was initially for installation of the alleys. We won't be doing that project any longer. But we did add in $1 million at Frebel, and that's for possibility of water and sewer connections. So that's for the infrastructure costs. We did keep the demo and abatement at $2 million. And we also added in cost of sale for up to 28 homes. That's just kind of a round number we picked on what we could think for a medium amount of density, single family homes, 40-foot wide lots, and still keeping a lot of it open as open space. And that's not to say that we're going to demo it. We really have two possibilities here. One, either somebody's going to save this building and probably do apartments or some type of mixed use. They're going to want their own brownfield. What this will do is just cover our bases. If we want to eventually demo it, use those demo costs and build new homes. So just want to be clear to the public that we're not proposing demoing at this point. It's just giving us both options for the future.
Thank you for that clarification. As we heard a couple weeks ago from a nearby resident, they had concerns. Something had traveled to them through the grapevine that was the city's plans to demolish and build a bunch of houses there. And so thank you for that clarification. And then is the reasoning why we see this in here because we already had to make those amendments to this plan to accommodate the removal of 881st Street and the other parcels. And since we anticipate potentially building or the construction up to 28 units, we just figured we'd add that on right now. So we don't have to do a 5th amendment, in 2 weeks or 4 weeks from now, or 2 months from now. But that's the maximum that staff anticipates. If we were to end up demolishing Frebel, presently the maximum that staff would anticipate of housing units being constructed there are 28. Is that my understanding?
It's a guess. I wouldn't want to be held to that number. but I can't imagine under its current zoning squeezing much more than that in there. So
So it's not. I mean, it could be 14. It could be none. It's all TBD. Just so that we know, and when we're speaking with residents, and when folks in the Jacksonville neighborhood are asking about this, we can tell them like this is reflected in the brownfield, but this is not anything set in stone. We're not demolishing. We're not building 28 units, but the plan just reflects the possibility of up to. Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Ramsey?
Yeah, I have a question. So you touched on something that we might have an opportunity with, and Michael, I'm not trying to make more work for you, but I'm really good at that. Is there an opportunity for us to put together a facts sheet, an FAQs, for this property and the things that might happen, as we experienced last week with our friend in the audience, our neighbor having those questions because of something she heard? It was valid, right? She was concerned. She showed up. She did what she needed to do. Could we generate a facts sheet of what we know to be true right now, so that we are not sharing misinformation when it is shared, because people ask us things, especially people who live in that neighborhood and who represent it. Vice Mayor German, that he could say, here is what we know to be true, and then there's no misinterpretation.
yeah, I think that would be a good idea, for one, to present the information, but two, to get people really thinking about maybe needing to demo this building, and that's something we don't want to see at all, but we've been working very hard on redeveloping it, and we've heard a lot of concerns from a lot of very experienced developers, so it might take more than us to get this done, so we need the community support as well to figure out what they want to do and what they're willing to pay for and back it, because getting down to crunch time on this building, I think, so.
Yeah, I think that with these bigger ticket items, that it's not just about engagement, but it's about community education, about the how and the what and the who and the where and the why, and that's something I'm not saying that we do it poorly, but we don't do it well. It's not our bright shining star, we notice that opportunity, so is this a way to do that? To not only engage, but educate.
Yes, Ms. Mixell.
Just before this meeting, a few of us had a meeting with a local person who's very interested in things happening in Muskegon, and the purpose of the meeting was to talk about different ways that we can engage the public. And so one of the things that came out of that meeting, and just as an update for all of you, we do have a signed offer, an accepted offer for our community engagement manager. So looking forward to getting that person on board. But one of the things that we discussed was with this new website and Director Will's idea for engagement was having some project pages so that we can,
Love that.
Just kind of have an easy place that we can update stuff and people can just go check it anytime they want to.
Like a one-pager
So
/
convenient.
rat card, but on the internet.
Yeah.
And I want you to think about this as we move forward. The internet is a great opportunity, but it doesn't reach all audiences.
I know. Yep.
And so how do we mitigate those opportunities, right, Commissioner St. Clair, so that we're getting to all of those spots?
Well, we're also going to start writing a newsletter. So.
Yes. So excited for the newsletter.
Good job.
And incorporating our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Newsletter. So, which we can make sure they're printed copies of the newsletter or that card that you were talking about at the Simray Community Center at our
Love it.
Smith Ryerson Park.
Yep.
Another way to disseminate that information.
No. I just think that as we keep continuing to talk about engagement, that it really is also about education, because we're engaging and then people are showing up here with the wrong thing, right? They've taken the worst of what they've heard and made it an issue, and then they get here and we're like, oh no, it's okay, and they're like, well, I came all the way down here to yell at you, and I can't yell at you because you didn't do nothing wrong. So how do we educate while we engage?
Indeed.
If you could work on that, that'd be great.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Did I see yeah, comment or question, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Director Franzik, we talked about this property for quite some time, and I'm talking about the Frebel area down there, and also the old farmers market, but particularly this Frebel area. And when I go to the meetings and I hear from constituents in the Jackson Hill, their concerns is, they want the city to be as transparent as possible. Doing this, amending it. Right now, as stated, we don't have any, interest parties that's looking right now, but I think it kind of sets the trajectory for whoever wants to come in there. And my concern would be what's happening in the Nelson area, how we started out with this pilot program and it changed in this infill housing project, but then all of a sudden we see this mass transformation of people being displaced. And these are people that's coming up talking to me, residents can't afford to rent, and I don't want to see the same thing happen in this Jackson Hill area, and I fear the gentrification. And as the study was done before with this Jackson Hill Institute of Mayors design study, Dr. Landsmark made it clearly when he said gentrification is inevitable. So as a commissioner over this ward, I definitely have to have as many concrete, clear answers to guide the constituents and the citizens in that area. What is the whole holistic approach and intent for this property, and also the Old Farmers Market when we talk about making these amendments and what's coming up down the line? Have we talked just recently with these neighborhoods associations? Because I was unable to make the October 11th meeting, so due to not feeling well. But that's my concern, pretty much. And when we talk about tearing down that building, if possible, the units of housing, the formula that's being used for people to buy those houses, and if you look at the statistics, and in that Jackson Hill area, we know that the median income is roughly about 25,000, maybe 30,000. These homes that's going to go in there is going to be, so what, 180,000? How can these people or anyone living in that area, are not making that type of income afford these houses? Because there's going to be some development there. I see it.
Sure.
And I know where we're going. It's just an amendment to do this here, but I'm looking holistically down the pipeline.
Certainly, we need to be looking long term. I just want to clarify that we're not looking at building anything there.
Exactly.
So there are no plans to build houses on this site or even demolish. It's just a reflection in a what-if scenario that's reflected in our brownfield, so that if that does come to pass, it's already in there. Now, with regard to this property, and we're going to need further engagement, certainly, with the Jackson Hill neighborhood and neighbors on the development that's going to happen there. But speaking to the question of gentrification specifically, we've floated the possibility and pursued and looked into the possibility of doing low-income housing at this site. And we got pushback from some of the neighbors. They didn't want low-income housing there. So we also then look at market rate, and then we get pushback on it. So there's a lot of differing perspectives and competing interests on how do we move forward with development across our city, but specifically with this site of Frebel. So I think that's going to merit further engagement, certainly, and understanding. Not just in trying to help improve neighbors' understanding, but also improve our own understanding of what the community wants and desires, and try to distill all that. It's not easy. Staff has a difficult job to try to distill all of those competing and differing perspectives from neighbors immediately around that property and across the neighborhood, and then making a recommendation to the commission that serves the city's interests and reflects the community's desires as well. So it's not an easy task, but certainly valid concerns and wanting to look long term of how we move forward there. Before I go to Commissioner Ramsey, Mr. Franzig, did you want to chime in and add anything on that question or comment?
I just like to reiterate that we're in a really good position here because we own the property, so we will do our due diligence on what the community wants. I'm sure we'll have lots of public hearings on the final outcome of what Frebel would be. I'm sure we'll have many public meetings on the redevelopment of that property if it does come down. Even if it doesn't come down, there's a lot of available land there, so we hold the land right now, so we don't have to do anything that the community doesn't want to do. So I'd also like to reiterate that there are dozens of other properties in Jackson Hill that aren't in this plan already. So if redeveloping any lots for new homes is a concern, it shouldn't just be on this property. It should be about all of the dozens of properties that are in this plan that aren't well, most of them are publicly owned. So.
Thank you. Yep.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's a couple of things that just happened here that I really want to highlight because this is my concern. So we are not planning to build on this property in Jackson Hill. I want that to be super, super clear because the way that the vice mayor just spoke makes it sound like we are underhandedly trying to put together a proposal for $200,000 homes to go up under the dark of night. And that is not the case. And that is what causes people to come down here and to get upset and to be agitated about what they think is happening to them by the big evil city in their backyards. That is not happening. We are not intentionally trying to gentrify Jackson Hill. I also represent part of Nelson neighborhood. These things are happening in my neighborhood. And there's not just one neighborhood in this city. This is happening across our entire city, and we always have to have the best interest of our neighbors at heart, right? Sometimes that's understanding the bigger picture. So then to further go through that, we speak about how the residents of Jackson Hill specifically, so I'm not calling out Jackson Hill, but that seems to be the hot topic every time we talk about rezoning and building houses. So we're gonna lay into that. We don't want to build $200,000 houses, but when we offer opportunities for low-income housing, and I don't mean subsidized and or projects or anything that looks like housing poor people. Let's be super clear about that. But affordable housing, they also don't want that. They being the neighbors, and I'm not accusing anyone. Those are the words that are being shared with us as a bench, from the bench. So at what point do we get to have real brass tacks conversations about the opportunities we have as our hands are being tied at every single turn to help our community out of a housing crisis? Our neighbors are either unhoused or housed at risk in many situations. And I refuse to believe that us having an infill housing program is causing gentrification or pushing people out of a neighborhood. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. Is it happening right now? No. Do you know why? Because there isn't enough housing to go around. Literally, you cannot find a place to live. And so I want everyone to understand the sense of urgency that I have about this. And I was so excited when this came back today so that we could do the one before this about the smaller housing. And I didn't want to go through the whole thing again, right? Because we have talked for hours and hours and hours about how this makes opportunity for more affordable units for our neighbors and for those who get to age in place, and the opportunities that it opens up for people who would be neighbors, people who already live here, because our missions and transitional housing opportunities are full. We can no longer stand in the way or allow others who are misinformed to stand in the way of housing our neighbors, the people that we love, our brothers and sisters, our family, our siblings, whatever they are. At some point, this conversation has become redundant. And we have to move forward to take better care of our neighbors. And so however we do that is how we need to do it. But I would really encourage us to begin having those conversations as opposed to going back and forth about things that we've already discussed time and time and time again.
Mayor.
Thanks so much for sharing your perspective, Commissioner Ramsey. And I just wanted to make sure that we all understand, and folks at home understand, that part of this home infill, scattered site home fill brownfield plan, what it is envisioning is using empty vacant parcels and building housing on it. This isn't buying up houses and demolishing them or removing housing to replace with higher end housing. This is taking the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lots that are across our city that are owned by the city and fall to us to maintain without generating revenue, to building houses on them, some of which we're building our own, some of which private sector is building, some of which we are doing partnerships with the private sector, public-private partnerships to get housing developed. And what we also have done tonight with that changing of the minimum square footage is, as Commissioner Ramsey was touching on, creating more options. Housing with smaller footprints, with lesser costs to starter homes to get established, so to speak. And so we're trying to provide housing at every price point. With regard to Frebel itself, in a perfect world, we'd be able to save that building, we'd be able to redevelop it, we'd be able to restore it, we'd be able to provide housing from low income to mid income, workforce housing to market rate and luxury, and have everyone live together. That socioeconomic diversity is important. It is what contributes to a vibrant and healthy society and city. And so that's what I'd love to see, but it requires partnership and money, capital. to get that done, and a will to get that done as well. Vice Mayor German, you have some closing remarks?
Yeah, no, I just say thanks for shedding some light on that. And me, myself, I definitely want to see development and in that area. But we want it to be equitable and people to have access to it and be able to live in the neighborhood which they once grew up in. Nor were I saying that this is the intent for the city to come in and gentrify an area. I basically stated that from the study of the Mayor's Institute of Design that came back, Dr. Landsmark, who was head of the study, said that gentrification is inevitable when you have a type of development. So either Commissioner Ramsey, and I tell him this to his face, he's not here right now, but either you're out of touch with this or you don't understand, because this stuff is happening all over the city. So to the Nelson area, this is what I'm hearing from residents that's saying they're being pushed out, rent is being raised due to the development, and this can happen anywhere that you have some type of, development. And these are people that's coming to me in my ward that's saying, hey, I can't afford the rent, I had to move. And I think when you have a relationship with people in the community and you reach out and you talk with them and they reach out to you, you hear these stories. Not everybody hears them, so I can only speak on the fact that what I'm hearing from my constituents, and then the ones that's being displaced are not able to afford the housing in their neighborhoods, which they actually grew up in. So
thank you for sharing. Commissioner Ramsey.
Out of touch?
Commissioner Ramsey.
Are you kidding me? Every time we talk about housing, Vice Mayor German, we have this same conversation. I am not out of touch. I am not trying to say that this isn't happening to our residents. I'm saying, what do we do to move forward? Because every time we have an opportunity, all that we have is the same damn conversation about how it can't happen. We can't offer help, we can't offer building, we can't do anything. And yet you claim to say that you know for a fact that people are being pushed out of their homes.
So we're going to direct remarks to the
What
chair.
are you doing?
Commissioner
What is he
Ramsey.
doing?
Vice Mayor German, we'll direct remarks to the chair at this time. We're not going to do crosstalk.
Thank you, Mayor.
Also, we're getting off track of what the item is on our agenda right now. This is a very important topic, is a housing crisis that exists in our city, one that we are trying to ameliorate by building more houses, by setting the conditions for the private sector to build more houses, and housing at every price point. Even if you built market rate housing, that is going to help our housing crisis. That gives opportunities for people within our city to relocate, and then that frees up another house. I mean, I heard someone from just the other day was like, I can't wait till that development gets done because I want to move out of their fairly new house that they bought a few years ago. They want to move into a new development that's coming down the pipeline elsewhere in our city. And so when you're building new houses, it unlocks more housing for others. And we do want to have housing at every price point, from low income to mid income to market rate and beyond. So this is not something that we're going to be able to solve tonight. This is a complex situation, one with many variables and many dynamics. But to your point, Vice Mayor German, yes, as redevelopment happens in cities and growth happens, there is a tendency for gentrification to occur. And it's our response, and I think we all understand that. I don't think any one of us misunderstands that point. We recognize it is our responsibility and our obligation to mitigate the worst effects and impacts of gentrification so that we are not displacing our residents, that we are serving our existing residents while being able to welcome new residents, to add to the vibrancy and vitality of the city, to bring in new revenues, to bring in new ideas, to bring in new energy, to further grow and develop and make Muskegon as magnificent as possible. So, if there are any other questions on the amendment to our brownfield plan with regard to the scattered site infill, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open this up if there are no other questions right now. So, Yes, if you'd like to give up, if you please give your name and you have up to 3 minutes for remarks.
My name is Leah Lavasser. I am a resident of Muskegon. I left for some years, and it taught me a lot about like what I can do better for my community. Because honestly, when you grow up here, you kind of don't realize that stuff until you leave. And so I actually understand both sides because I think, honestly, you guys have very good points on both things, and I can completely understand wanting your city to be better. Okay, sorry. Wanting your city to grow and be better and to bring new commissions and, you know, have other people travel here. I think it's a beautiful place. I think as the years that we've had these developments, we can see more people coming, you know, and I'm really happy, which I do want to say those buses, I'm happy they happen with the tracker app, but with the app, but the trackers will help that. But further on what I'm talking about, I completely understand what Vice Mayor German is talking about, because it's a concern when you're, okay, we're talking about Jackson Hill, right? And this is a low income area, and that is one of the concerns that he's saying is part of the people of the city, or the, you know, the community over there, is that, okay, if you bring in $180,000 houses, and these cost more than most of the houses around here. You know, they have a lot of apartments around there. Jackson Hill has a lot of history, and it's also been known as a low-income area for a very long time. And you know, it does push people out when you bring new developments. I get it, I understand that, but I do think that is very important to think about your residents, because we're not just trying to, you know, make Muskegon better and invite people. We want to remember, you know, where we came from. We want to remember our residents here, and that is what happened to downtown Muskegon. You know, it's just, you know, I think it's a great thing, that community compass. I think the development down there has been great, but the rent is ridiculous. And it also forces people to stay in abusive relationships and abusive situations, because then you're not having affordable income. I know that, like, say you make $20 an hour for, you know, $50 or 50 hours a year, you're going to be approved at like $115,000 house. So even though then that's like a medium income, and that's like with one child, you want to make at least $24 an hour, and that is what is a livable income in Muskegon. And so you have to think of like the community, the children growing up here, the homes, you know, and how that affects us psychologically on like a community-based level. And so I think $180,000, I think is, you know, I think I get that, but I think that it should be implemented that we also have retirement homes in this area. I think that will help with the community. I think, you know, some low-based income projects that are primarily focused on low income, so they don't just push residents out. And so while there's this relocating, there is still availability. And then on top of that, you do still have those new developments. So, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to be fair to all aspects, because I do think those are very important parts that you guys are both passionate about, and I think they both equally matter. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And then, do I wait till after about something? I'll let other people speak on this matter first.
On this matter,
Yeah.
You can speak again at the end of the meeting
Yeah,
under
awesome.
general comment.
Thank you.
Yes. We actually have someone in the audience that you may be interested to hear from as well. I don't know if he wants to speak under the public hearing or if he wants to speak at the end on his project, which is a lower income senior housing project. So he's delivering what you're asking. And they're about to do a ribbon cutting next month. Would you like to wait? Okay. We'll reserve you to the end for general public comment then. Thank you, Mr. Laudenbach. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak under public hearing on the Brownfield Plan Amendment for infill housing? No? All right. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution.
I move to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for city's infill housing project, Fourth Amendment.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gorman, supported by Commissioner Emery. Director Ekholm, I saw your hand back there. It was like 15 minutes ago, so I don't know if you still have something to add or not, but I wanted to get back to you and give you an opportunity to speak if there's something you want to add to this conversation before we vote.
Nothing that concerns the vote, or that we'll have be doing some public engagement regarding travel after the first of the year. We have some concepts for perpetual affordable housing that we want to run by the neighborhood.
All right. Thank you, Director Ekholm. Before we go to vote, any final thoughts on this? I see Commissioner Ramsey.
This is just my tail tucking. Apologies. I'm very passionate about this, as this young lady just mentioned. I know that Vice Mayor is also very passionate about this. We're all here for the same reason. But I stand by what I said. I could have been a little more together about it. So for that, I apologize. But not for what I said.
Well, I appreciate both of yours passion and the passion and commitment and public service of everyone on this dais. Vice Mayor German, final
Yeah,
remarks?
thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, young lady, for speaking, and your input is greatly appreciated. And you know, when I talk about these things, you know, I try to take a pragmatic approach about things and try to maintain good posture. Hey, it's not easy sitting up here because sometimes you want to, you know, actually just release that energy. Nothing against no one, but sometimes people don't see what you see or don't know the experience that you have experienced and the people that you talk to. So it's easy to speak on those things that you really don't know about sometimes. So sometimes they can be misled or not, you know, educated on certain things. So perceptions, you know, we all have them. So just wanted to say that, and thank you as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Any commissioners who have not spoken wish to give remarks before we go to vote? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes?
Vice Mayor German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood.
Okay, I just got confused over, you know, what are we voting on?
To close the public hearing.
yeah.
Go ahead. You
No.
want to read your motion?
To close the public hearing. We're voting to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan amendment for the info housing.
Yes. Thank you.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next item, new business, city manager contract. I have a motion to approve the agreement as presented.
Motion to approve the agreement as presented.
Support.
Support.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by, I'll give it to Commissioner Emery. We haven't heard from you tonight on a motion. Motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Emery, to approve the city manager contract with Jonathan Seaforth as presented. All right, Commissioners. So, as you know, we've gone through a many-month process to search for a city manager. We had extensive discussion, deliberations, and we settled on extending an offer of employment to Jonathan Seaforth. Legal counsel, subsequent to that, legal counsel and Jonathan Seaforth have been in discussions and negotiations around a contract. The basis of the contract was Frank's contract, our prior city manager's contract, with some adjustments to that, inclusive of we removed the student loan forgiveness clause that was in Frank's agreement. We had reduced the employer matching contribution to the retirement plan down to 9%, which is in alignment with the rest of our non-union staff members. So that's bringing that into parity there. We had also reduced the severance from 12 months to 6 months with an automatic increase of 1 month for every year that Jonathan remains our city manager, up to a maximum of 12 months. And we added a car allowance for up to $300, or not up to, but at $300 a month. Frank had a car allowance in his very first contract that had been removed subsequently, which then contributed to his increase in retirement matching. And any other major changes relative to the prior one?
That's about it.
Okay. So, commissioners, do you have any questions or remarks?
What did he respond positively?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
great.
He's accepted the position.
Okay.
He's already signed the contract.
Just needed to know that part.
Just pending commissioner approval. So yes,
Great.
He wasn't able to join us tonight. He expects to be attending our meetings subsequently in the audience, and then he will be starting November 28th. Monday, November 28th will be his first official date with the City of Muskegon. He had to give considerable advance notice to his current employer. So yes, no, he has accepted and is eager to come work with and for the City of Muskegon, pending our final approval of that contract. So any other questions or remarks? Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question for.
No, I did want to add one more thing that I forgot about that I had asked that be included that was different. So I had asked that a clause be included that requires our incoming city manager to get DEI certification. And so he and I will determine the program and the timeline and the cost of that. And so he's accepted that. That is part of the contract. It is a requirement and condition of his employment. And then would also let's extend that to our deputy city manager, and the two of them can pursue that DEI certification together if she's so inclined. I know she's been very active in the Government Alliance for Racial Equity, so I imagine that she would be receptive to pursuing such certification at the same time. But Vice Mayor German.
You hit it on the head. Talking about that, I wanted to ask about the training for DEI. Also, I got a chance to meet with all of these mayors for the DEI committee, and you actually came in, I think, later that day to the US Cafe. They all met up there, so that was interesting. Also, is there a clause or anything in the contract that states if he leaves and don't fulfill the contract, what type of clause is that? Is there a clause that states you don't get severance?
So the severance is only in the event that he is terminated without cause.
Okay.
Or if, let's say we're having a conversation at the commission and a majority of the commission says, you know what, I really think you should go. You don't make a motion to say you're fired. You just say, you know, I really think you should go. I lost confidence in you. I don't want you to be a city manager. If a majority of the commission simultaneously gives that indication without making any kind of motion, you just put the words out there, then he is entitled to severance. So just to make sure everyone is clear on that. So he's entitled to severance in terms of that scenario that I just laid out. Terminated without cause, and the reasons for cause are spelled out in there. And also, if there is a credible threat to his well-being, and the city refuses to protect or defend him against that credible threat. Answer your question?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
it. That seems fair. Yep.
Commissioner St. Clair.
In regards to the DEI training, I have no doubt that you and the incoming city manager have excellent intentions in regards to this. I would like to know who else you're going to consult on that. Do we have a city DEI officer that you are going to engage? Would you go through the community college DEI program? I'd like a little more.
Yeah, I can have legal counsel because he looked into that, so I can have him weigh in.
When I sat through the interviews, I came to the conclusion, which was absolutely incorrect, that there is a gold standard for DEI training, that there is an ICMA sponsored DEI training. That's not the case. There is and so as I'm looking through the internet, which you know is absolutely truthful, there was everything from extremely well-respected universities that do it, some very intensive, some virtual, to for $150 you can get access to our videotapes and get a DEI certification. Seeing that there's no gold standard, seeing that there's everything across the board, my feeling in talking with Mr. Seifert and then confirming with the mayor is leave it to the two to do it together and look for others. And frankly, it's going to come back to you. Are you willing to spend X amount of time out of the city in training with hotel rooms, registrations, etc.? Or do you want to spend half of X and do it less intensive, equally as good? I mean, the two that I saw that looked really good is one is at Northwestern University, a very well-respected university, and Cornell.
Cornell has a great one.
And is a great one. But they are so different in concept. In that, you know, You know, is the mayor and the manager going to talk with others? Absolutely. I would anticipate.
Yeah.
There would be a ton of conversation. But then frankly, it's coming back to the seven of you of, okay, here's our recommendation, or here's the 2 or 3 options. Because they are all over the board.
Yes. So I anticipate this will come back to the commission because there's going to be a cost associated with this. And so this will come back to the commission to understand which program he'll be pursuing, and perhaps our deputy city manager at the same time, which program they will be pursuing, what that timeline, what that cost would be. Jonathan and I spoke the other day about this, and he was of the mind, we were of the same mind without having spoken to each other about that, which is going with the Cornell program. It is a very well-respected program. It is available online, and so that's what we're looking at. So I would encourage everyone on this dais to look at that Cornell Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Certificate and Training Program, and then please give me your feedback on that program and your thoughts on it. And this will ultimately come back.
You say it's online?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The courses.
The course, yeah.
The courses are all
it's
online.
so we don't have to lose them for weeks on end to go to Cornell physically.
I would go though. I think that I would even encourage us to look at a group rate and see if anyone from the dais here wants to be a part of that effort as well, or anyone from city staff wants to get involved. And if we need to find some money, I know that there are some monies going around town from both the community foundation and a couple other funders who are looking to get behind the education of our neighbors, and we are that. So let's see what we can do to play.
Yeah, great. Maybe we can get a bulk rate.
Yeah, love a bulk rate.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? All right. If there are none, then we'll go to roll call.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And final item under new business. Sale of 1227 Pine Street.
Mr. Mayor, before you ask for a motion, can I ask that you modify the motion slightly, or unless Leanne wants to, because we talked about it beforehand, is to approve the purchase agreement of 1227 Pine Street with the change that the city shall provide a quitclaim deed.
Anyone want to make that motion?
Yeah, I will. I motion to approve the purchase agreement for 1227 Pine Street with the changes that the city will offer a quick claim deed.
We'll provide.
Will provide.
Yep.
Sorry, John. Provide,
Nope.
not offer.
That's
Quick
It's
claim
actually
deed.
shall provide. No.
Oh. Be careful! I might have outburst.
Just directing at me. All right. So we have a motion. Do I have a support?
Support.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to approve the purchase agreement for 1227 Pine Street with a caveat that the city shall provide a quick claim deed. All right. Can we get a report out on this item? This was a sort of a last-minute addition. So can we get a report out from Ms. Mikesell as to this item?
Sure. As you know, we've been in partnership with Dave Duzading and West Urban Homes to construct infill housing. This is part of that program. We have quite a number of homes that are listed right now for sale. We actually had one a week or two ago that fell through. But I was happy to see this late last night, and so you'll see there's an original purchase price that was countered back, and then there are some seller concessions as well. But this is one of the brand new homes that we have recently built.
Thank you, Ms. Mikesell. Commissioner Ramsey, did I see you over there? Oh,
Just great job.
all right. Commissioners? Any questions or comments? Vice Mayor German.
Okay, yeah. Now this property is going for 180. Is that's listed here on the purchase agreement?
Well, it's going to be 181 if you look at there was a counter.
Okay.
I don't recall off the top of my head what the listing price was. Does Director Eckelholm remember?
So is this one of the market rate homes, or is this one of the homes that are reserved, the 50% of the homes being constructed that's reserved for 120% AMI and less? Director Eckelholm.
Hello.
Welcome.
So the way we're running this is at least 50% of the homes we want to go to folks between 80 and 120% AMI per the ARP agreement. So we're income qualifying all buyers. But with this first 18, because of the difficulty we've had selling and the high cost of construction, we don't want to exclude any buyers. So basically, the more that we have up front for this first 18 this is half the homes for this ARP agreement. The more we have that are market rate in this half, the more we have to find affordable buyers in the next half. But the McLaughlin neighborhood homes that we've been building came, I think if it had been 2 quarters prior to now, we probably would have all of them under contract because of the interest rate environment. I think it's easy to forget that like our buyers in our market that we're trying to cater to are the first that are being negatively impacted by that interest rate environment. So it's getting harder and harder to find folks that are working families, working class families that are trying to buy these homes that can get pre-qualified. Because we ran some numbers the other day, and on this mortgage, as an example, the mortgage amount, the doubling interest rate would result in about $380 more a month on a 30-year mortgage, and that's going to price some people out. So we want to get these sold so that we can get working on the next 18. But as I said, so however many market rate we sell in this 18, we will just have to sell more affordable. But CNS is working directly with West Urban Properties, and they'll income qualify all accepted purchasers.
So help us understand the process, or walk us through the process. These houses are coming online, they've been constructed, they're coming online through our ARPA infill program, and we're income qualifying or verifying the income of every single purchaser, and we're just going through the normal process of offer, counteroffer, and if they happen to be above the 120, then we're saying, that's market rate. If they happen to be below 120 and they qualify and we come to agreement terms, we're going to check that off as being that the income qualified home.
So yeah, I think it does a couple things. So yes, long story short, in principle, that's how it will work. The other thing to remember is these are being built at $235 a piece because that's just what they cost to build. With the benefit of hindsight, we probably would have done a different floor plan with some different cost efficiencies to try to get that construction price down some, had we known that the interest rate environment was going to climb this high. So there's not much I can do about these 18 houses that are under construction. As far we are making some cost efficiencies, but the reason that we want to income qualify everybody, not only to determine how many are market rate and how many then need to be held over, is because if we know, I'm going to make up an example for just to give myself easy math. If all 18 of these go market rate, which will not be the case, but if it is, then I have 18 over on the second phase that I need to build affordably, which is going to impact my floor plate. Like, it's going to impact how we ask them to be built so that we can get the cost down to where somebody who's within that AMI range can get pre-qualified for them in this financing environment. So to get back to your question about process, we can accept an offer now, pre-qualify these folks. As we get further down the road and we know we have a set number, we identify a number we're going to need to do on the second phase, then we will pre-qualify. We'll ask people to pre-qualify before we accept their offer. But on these ones, I'm disinclined to do that only because it's been tough sledding to get offers at all because of the interest rate environment and some other factors. We had an accepted offer, as the manager mentioned, and then the house next door happened to catch fire and did damage to the house that we own. So, which turns out title companies will let you out of your earnest money deposit when that happens. So they elected to move on, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, when you have interest rates essentially doubling within
and
a year,
they're likely to go up
that
again.
Is a challenging environment.
Yep, and so we think November 2nd there's going to be one more 3/4 point increase. We're seeing some promising feedback from the Fed that they may take a more conservative approach towards that into next spring, which is when selling season starts, which should be ideal for us. There's also some good futures showing in the commodities markets that show that material costs could go down quite a bit. So, we might be looking at not having changed the floor plan as much as we think. But the fact of the matter is, I can't expect, working family households in that 80 to 120% AMI range to be able to finance at 235 or 185, and so we're going to see seller concessions on every offer we get, and that's a sign that we're right there where people can afford.
So if this house ended up costing over $200,000 construct, why? And we're selling it for, you said 181. Why is the seller concessions only 10,800? Is that the maximum that we can?
That's what they offer. That's what they requested. So, but in
I guess I'm thinking of in terms of the brownfield, because we were planning on capturing the seller concessions through the brownfield future tax capture, and so it was supposed to be the differential between my understanding of it was the differential between the cost of construction and what it actually sold for. If it ends up selling less than the cost of construction, we're going to be able to capture the differential through future tax capture. Incremental tax growth in the brownfield. So if the seller concession is 10,800, that doesn't seem reflective of that differential. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
So the cost of sale per the Brownfield Act that public entities can recover is not just your seller concessions, but also your losses on closing costs, and then your difference between construction cost and sale price. So,
okay.
So in this one, on these first 18, I anticipate these will be subsidized by other brownfield properties that are selling closer to construction costs. And what we're seeing in the data as we kind of look at them, even on a map, is the closer you are to Western Avenue, the better they sell, which is to be expected. So those ones that are in that Nelson neighborhood area are going to subsidize in the brownfield the ones that are in other neighborhoods where maybe we're not fetching pricing. We're seeing similar pricing, competitive pricing in Jackson Hill. That's a desirable street that LRS Enterprises is building on Getty there, or on Leonard. It's kind of quiet. It's got some wooded area. Those sold at 201 and 206, both with about $5,000 to $6,000 in concessions. So, but again, that was in a 3.5% interest rate environment. So I'm guessing that we'll probably build these next ones more expensively and have to sell them for less, which will cause the brownfield to have more years of subsidy.
Okay. So that seller concession is just a reflection of the difference between what the listing price was and what we're actually selling it for. It's not going to be reflective of the total differential between what we constructed, cost of construction, and what we're actually selling it.
Exactly.
It's actually a little bit different from that. So the seller concession, so the sales price for this house is $181,000, but they're asking for us to give them $10,800 at closing toward the closing. And so we will actually get
We're effectively selling it.
something.
We're effectively selling it for 170. That's what that specific sell. And so
But
they
this
can
helps.
specify concessions like for closing costs or specific things, repairs, stuff. Obviously, this is a new build, but they're just asking for a general seller's concession of $10,800, which I'm guessing means they got pre-qualified for right up near 170. And so they're saying, I'll buy it at this, but I need you to give me this back, and my financer will allow it. So.
And one other thing I'd like to add is keeping the sale price at 181 helps us with getting the values that we need, the appraised values for houses around it.
It helps us set comps, and that's benefiting folks in that neighborhood that are selling their existing owner-occupied homes, because even though an appraiser won't use a new build as a comp for an existing build, they'll look at an aggregate average in a census tract or in another area. So the more new builds that sell well, the better it bodes for your existing home if you're an owner in that neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I have understanding. I want all of us to have understanding. As Commissioner Ramsey used to say, he's like, we're not in real estate, the business of real estate. He's like, apparently we are.
Well,
and we are. We are in a big way in many ways. And there's going to be many more of these coming to us. And so I want us to understand what is happening with this program and with these transactions. What prompted this being added versus, the next agenda? It's just a matter of timeliness. Like we have a buyer that's wanting to move in ASAP and didn't want to hold off to November 9th. November 9th is going to be election day, so we're not meeting November 9th, are we? We're going to do, November 8th. So we'd be doing a work session / general session on Monday, November 7th.
Yeah, if you look, and if you've bought and sold homes much, you'll note that we don't have a lot of time to respond. And they don't have a lot of time to accept or respond either. And so it's probably unheard of to wait 2 weeks to get a response on a purchase agreement.
If I might add to that, we've had, as I've mentioned, it's been kind of tough sledding for this round of our, because of the environment that we find ourselves in. I think if we get this first one sold, I think that's going to kind of help set a comp, and it's going to show other agents that want, sometimes agents will kind of, hem and haw with their client until they see one sell in a certain area, in a certain floor plate. So I think if we get this one sold, it's going to encourage other buyers agents to take a second look at the other ones we have standing up, and then the ones that we have in the pipeline right now.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions?
There's one for me.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes. Where's the buyer from and who's the buyer? I can barely see that writing. Is the buyer here?
I don't know. Again, I don't believe they're here. We just got this offer this morning or yesterday, I believe. Yep. So, and they have a reasonable right to privacy until we consummate the sale. So, yeah. But we will.
They might want to come up and speak.
Oh yeah, no. Had they been here, I would love to have that. But and I think as I mentioned, so on this first one, we want to get it sold market rate or subsidized. But in future, we'll get more information that they have. Obviously, they have to submit voluntarily, and our sort of incentive for that is, well, if you are at a certain income threshold and pre-qualified, you may be eligible for other programming we have through our community and neighborhood services department, like down payment assistance and things of that nature. So, we want to give that to folks that are buying these homes if they're eligible. So,
Thank you, Director Echolm. There's nothing else. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you.
All right. On to any other business before we go to public comment. Commissioners, do you have any other business? Raise it this time? All right, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah. The MML convention, I think I saw just about everybody there. I don't know if I got a chance to speak with everybody, but it was a good event. I got a lot of positive feedback from neighboring cities and municipalities, and it was a well orchestrated event, and it's good to see Muskegon be put on the map as a meeting ground for events such as this. So I was impressed, and like I said, a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah, indeed. It was a good event. I was happy to see. I know Commissioner Gorman had to go out of state, unfortunately, so she couldn't join us. But everyone else had an opportunity to attend at some portion of the convention. So it was great that we were able to host the Michigan Municipal League annual convention last week. That was their first time in our city, or holding the convention in our city since 1997. So it's been 25 years. Hopefully we don't go another quarter century before they meet again and we have an opportunity to host again. We got a lot of positive feedback about our convention center, about our city, our downtown. They felt very welcomed, and we're excited about the energy and positive things happening in our city. And so it was wonderful. So thank you to everyone that had an opportunity to participate, and everyone on our team at City Hall who helped spruce up, Western Avenue and downtown in the lead up for that, and promote our Western Market Chalets. And then Ann Mish, our city clerk, and planner Jamie Pesh had also presented on our Western Market Chalet. So that was wonderful. But it was all around a great event, and wonderful to engage with 500 folks from across our state who are in similar positions at us, whether they're elected or appointed, employed, but they're doing municipal governance and work. And we had an opportunity to share best practices and learn from one another's trials and tribulations, and commiserate and just enjoy fellowship, which was very nice and empowering in and of itself. So, Commissioner Ramsey.
Kudos again to the clerk's office. I sat with representatives from both Pontiac and Berkeley, and both of them will be reaching out to learn more about the chalets and how we did it. They think that it's a great opportunity to take to their city, probably not in the expansive way that we've done it. I also spoke about it being a stepping stone in a process of establishing a local business. And they loved that idea and getting behind it. And so they're going to reach out to both you and the chamber to talk about how they can, mimic our model, which is amazing. So kudos to all of you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Commissioner St. Clair.
I would just tag on to that. I was speaking to some of the business owners in the chalets on Friday, and they were so excited and grateful for the traffic that the city directed to them. One in particular said that they had never had that kind of engagement before, and I think that just speaks volumes to how unique that situation is. I also was standing in line waiting for my lunch, and was talking to quite a few people that had come from the convention, and they were just amazed by what has been built downtown and the chalets in particular. So to echo Commissioner Ramsey, I think we are in the forefront of something that a lot of people would like to be doing. So nice job.
Anything else, commissioners? All right, we're going to go to public comment now. Got a couple forms. I know you want to come back up, but we got a couple other forms that I'm going to get to first. She's got a form as well. So first up, we have Christina Achterhoff with Senator Bumstead's office. You have up to 3 minutes. She wants to speak on the Sparks grant application. Welcome.
3 minutes, yeah. Good evening. Thank you. Christina Achterhoff with Senator Bumstead's office. And I'm just here as a follow-up. When I was here, I don't know, a month or so ago, the Sparks grant, that anticipated application to apply, opened yesterday. And so it's an exciting news. And I know they were talking about the skate park. And so this money is intended for outdoor recreational activities. So I encourage you to get going on it and apply. There's 65 million in the whole package, but 15 million will be available.
Just for us? No.
Well, that would be nice. That would be nice.
15 million
Will
for
be
us?
available through, I believe, December 19th for this year. So if there will be a webinar on the 28th of this month, if anyone's interested in participating, to find out exactly what you need to do. And I've got the email here that anyone can ask me after the meeting. But other than that, that's what I wanted to say, that thank you, and it was an enjoyable meeting and an enjoyable comments. That was nice, and thank you, and I hope to see you next month.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Next up, we have Joel Lautenbach. Did I pronounce that right? Lautenbach? Close. With Samaritas. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to give you a brief update on the new Samaritas Affordable Living Project that's under construction in downtown Muskegon, located at 785 Spring Street, across the street from the United Way. We are getting close to completing this project and opening our doors to welcome up to 106 persons that are over 55. So in MSHDA's eyes, that's considered seniors. But these 53 one-bedroom apartments are targeted for people who are earning between 30 and 70% of AMI. And so that means that a lot of what we were talking about, what you were talking about earlier this evening, this project is designed to really solve that problem. In other terms, that means people that are making between $15,000 a year and $35,000 a year here in Muskegon can afford or qualify to live in this community, and rents will be set below the maximum MSHDA threshold, so ranging from, at the low end, $267 a month to the high end, $751. So we're really excited to open our doors to the residents of Muskegon. We've already had a lot of interest. We encourage you to spread the word to your constituents that this is a resource that's coming online. We anticipate getting started with leasing in December. But as you know, Muskegon presents challenges when doing some development, and the pandemic didn't help anyone. As we've heard from our planning team and other city staff, that the construction costs went up considerably for all projects. And Samaritas found ourselves in the middle of receiving a wonderful award of tax credit resource from the state, and then the cost of the project went way up. So we wanted to continue, so we decided to begin and sought other sources of capital support for the project going forward. I'm pleased to announce that we were able to secure a $460,000 grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis for the project out of their affordable housing project program. And we still are looking for around $740,000 to kind of cover the gap in our rising construction costs and some other costs associated with environmental and soils that were on site. So maybe there's an opportunity for Samaritas to talk with you a little bit more about this project in the future. But we are meeting the end of our construction process, and so it would be wonderful if you could consider supporting this project with additional capital if you have sources available at your disposal. I would challenge you to think about a capital investment as more of a programmatic impact over 45 years. So this is creating that resource for the long term for the city of Muskegon. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you much. I'm so excited for to see this building be constructed, and more importantly, housing 100 folks in our community. So that's thrilling, and I look forward to the ribbon cutting next month. And all commissioners, happy to speak and give some opening remarks. And all commissioners and staff, I encourage you to attend and celebrate this new housing development in our community. And I know that you are also interested in potentially pursuing additional ones in our community, which I'm happy to partner and promote and share some new opportunities with you as well. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Lautenbach while he's here right now? Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, just more of a comment. Congratulations on the completion of your project.
Thank you.
As you stated before, in timely manner, you did it, and the vision that you had to provide affordable housing. And as I stated over and over on this bench, that's one of my main concerns, because I've traveled several states and it's a problem everywhere. So to bring some solutions and not just complain about them, and have somebody to come in and do something about them. And we have others as well, but I really appreciate what you've done. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Commissioner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate the good work you're doing. All right. Next up, forms have been submitted. We have County Commissioner Marcia Hovey-Wright wishes to speak. You have up to 3 minutes to give your remarks. I see you mentioned a county candidate. Just know that we do not do any politicking at the podium, but you're welcome to. All right. You know the you know the game.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm basically reporting, filling you in or updating you on what's going on at the county. First of all, if you plan on attending any meetings that we have on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they are now going to all be at the college, at Baker College. And you go down to get to the right entrance, because there's a whole bunch of entrances. You go down Marquette, and where you see the big Baker sign on the building, that's where you go in, and there's an auditorium just to the right, and there'll be signs inside. So that's all of the administration, finance have moved there. It's a sort of staged moving, so not everybody's out there yet, but administration is. So, Dune Harbor Park, I've been getting a lot of questions about that, because the parking and the entrances are very slow in getting done. We had problems with accessing materials, as well as as somebody said, we made the mistake of going with the lowest bid, and they were slow. So a word to the wise that we need to listen to as well. All of our parks are funded by fees, and of course, without parking, there are no fees. So we're anxious to get that up and running as well. We have raised, or a group, I believe it's the Conservation Corps, has raised about $500,000 for the development of the park, and we've allocated $250,000. So we have a start for what we can, what we need to do. I plan to initiate a Friends of the Dune Harbor Park. to help with fundraising and also maintenance. Some of you may be aware that there's been a problem with birds on the island, and dying birds. A lot of them have died from the avian flu, and so we're looking into destroying the island so the birds aren't attracted there. They're more of a nuisance than anything else. As far as you're way ahead of us on distributing your ARPA money. We are still prioritizing, but we have to get bids, and because we just moved, the biggest piece was the buying of the property and renovating what we need to renovate there. So that's a priority. Another piece of what we're going to spend money on is destroying or demolishing the old jail and rebuilding offices for the officers. I can't believe that we built that whole big jail, that expensive jail, and had no offices. I guess that's it.
Well, thanks so much, Commissioner.
Yeah. Do I just get 3 minutes? I put that on my thing, but I'm representing a
You need
group.
another minute?
Yeah, just, I mean, not even that.
Just some informative updates, so yeah.
Yeah, okay. The floating restaurant that was in the paper over the weekend, we were pretty excited about the idea. It seemed really creative, real good, another fun addition to our downtown. But since then, I've gotten some calls from people that live nearby and are concerned about some of the same things that you helped with, Teresa or Commissioner Emery, in Harbortown and Beach Street with the music noise. So I suspect we'll be in conversation with the neighbors to try and reduce the impact on them, because it's going to be daily, not just the festivals. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate
And feel free to contact me if there's anything you want to work on together.
Absolutely. I appreciate you joining us and giving us those updates. And I realize now I misread your what you wrote in here. It said county update, and I read the update as candidate. So, yes. Thank you for joining us and giving us updates. All right. Any other forums for public comment, Madam Clerk?
No.
No? All right. Welcome back to the podium.
Hi.
If you just give your name again.
My name is Leah Lavasser. So I just kind of want to brief back to what I was speaking on earlier, because I told myself, I was like, is it an important part? Because I was talking about a median income of $20 an hour, right? But I know there's a lot of people that are making $10 at Dollar General. There's people starting in companies that are 13, and then they have high turnover rates, low higher end rates, and these are things that you deal with when you're a working class citizen. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, even though if you're sitting there comfortably, that's not the case for everybody else and for their housing developments, because it's not everybody just puts themselves in that position, and that's wrong for anybody to assume. And then another thing I was gonna speak on, we'll try to go back to that. The original reason that I actually came here, because I thought it was a good idea, and maybe not an immediate development, but I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Safe Haven baby boxes. And so they're just something that are just good for the community. I think it also is just kind of it just is a reflection on our community. I got some input. I got a packet sent to me in my email, and I still have to go through, and I can forward it to anybody, but it's an $11,000 investment, and then it's $300 a year, and then you can typically find a contractor that'll do it to little to no cost. And so you can have them put in the fire station or a hospital, and it's just for an up and coming proposal, because I'm very big on preventative matters, and so I don't think we have had an issue with that. But I don't really know, I'm not a cop, I'm not out here in these streets like that, but it's just something I wanted to propose for in the future, because we do have an issue, we have a history, and I'm really proud of Fresh Coast Alliance and 70x7 program for these, and the KPAP, how they're helping people that have been in these situations, but it is dangerous to the children that are still dealing with parents of addicts or, you know, mental illness or whatever the case may be. And it's just something I want to implement as a preventative like asset to Muskegon. So it's called Safe Haven Baby Boxes, and the initial fee is $11,000. It's $300 a year, and you can either get the packets or I could forward them to you. I still have to go through further, and then it's just has to be approved by like say the firehouse, which I believe you guys would if it was the fire station, it would go through you guys, and then it would like Mercy Hospital or whatever the case, because you would have to have some sort of trained professional, whether it's like EMT or whatever, to make sure like, you know, and it alerts people within 30 seconds, like, or professionals, EMTs, or whatever the right word is, but within 30 seconds. And so it's just something I thought that might be a good idea, and I'm sure many of you probably might have heard of these. So that is all, and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm unfamiliar with the Safe Haven Baby Boxes that you're referencing. Our fire stations are designated Safe Haven drop-off. So I'm not sure exactly how that's handled or process administered, but I would encourage you to confer with our public safety department and our public safety director, Tim Kozel, over there. And so you may want to have a conversation with him, share the resources with him, and then he can evaluate it and see how that might fit into what our current processes and approach to it is, and if it is reasonable for him to bring that recommendation forward to the city commission to make any changes. So thank you for the great input and attending tonight. Anyone else in the public wishes to give comment? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Support.
And a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner St. Clair to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We are adjourned.